Yes. Hello, good day or good morning. I don't know, it's 11. My name is Henrik Roonemaa, and I hope I will do a minimal amount of talking in this panel because I have a wonderful row of panelists I will invite on stage now. So let's start with Marju Purin from Microsoft. Welcome. Then we have Dr. Liina Kamm from Cybernetica. And last but not least, Velsberg from the government, from the Ministry of Justice and Digital Affairs. Welcome, Ott. Kind of looks like we have space for one more member.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to join us, you're welcome. Just get a microphone, or or ask questions in the app or with the microphone. So, good morning. It is, as I said, almost 11 o'clock, so I think we quite safely can already begin with a little bit of philosophy. It's not too early for that. So my question would be, I started thinking, I was listening, and of course you know this saying that technology is always neutral, right? It's the people who decide to do something with the technology that might make it not neutral. And we even say that nuclear bombs are inherently, as technology, they are neutral, but the people who are pushing the buttons are not neutral. Then I started thinking about AI. I was kind of wondering, could large language models be like the first inherently non-neutral technology we have created? Because there is something in them. They have an opinion, they have a world view. I don't consider LLMs to be neutral, but maybe I'm wrong. Who wants to start? Liina, you're looking at me.
Oh,
yeah.
I can start. Well, I mean, the problem is that they're still based on data, right? Because you train a model based on data, and if the data is not fair, if the data is biased, then you will have a biased system. So a system can only be as good as its data. And unfortunately, bias has very many categories. So bias can get into the system at very different stages. And one of the stages is, of course, the first stage is historical bias. And we all have grown up in a biased world. We are all biased in our own way. Some of our biases are, we would like to think, good, and some of them are not good. But there is, it's all different, and we might try to be better, but not always. The data doesn't always support us with that. And there is historically things have been unequal. We're trying to make it better, but it doesn't mean that the data is not out there. So it's the same with if we're talking about women in technology, then historically there have been more men in technological or ICT areas, let's say, and that is also how it gets into the system, because the AI doesn't know that we are looking to get more women into IT, more women into data science. It might pick it up somewhere, but it's still the data shows something different, and it's very difficult to have this system not look at this information.
Thanks. Marju, what's your opinion? I mean, I talked to ChatGPT, and I can understand Liina's point of view that the underlying tech is based on data, and as technology, it's kind of neutral, but the thing that I'm talking to is not neutral in any way, for sure.
Yeah, sure. The mathematics in the models is beautiful.
Yes.
It's completely unbiased. I would say that's the first technology that humans created that is completely unbiased. It's actually the mathematics inside. But when you put in the data component, you put in all of human history in there. But I would like to actually look at this in a hopeful and positive way, because think about humans and human society and how it has evolved over, let's say, if not hundreds and thousands of years, and how long it has taken for us to come to this point when we can talk about in public about equality for all people. For technology, I would like to say we can take the models and train them to go through this transformation much faster. we can truly aim to be as bias-free as we have resources to put into this. I think for a human, if you wanted to repeat that same experiment on a human society, you wouldn't get the same result as you would get on an LLM. So I'm actually quite hopeful on this.
This is an interesting point of view. I think it's the mathematics is beautiful and neutral, but the fact that we are putting in the machine what we have done as humans and what we are and what we have been, and this is what has been, has been biased through hundreds or thousands of years of history.
Absolutely, and if you look at the foundational models that most likely you were using as well, then you need to keep in mind who are the kind of developers behind it as well. So if you look, for instance, ChatGPT, it really strongly represents some political view, US-based. Even the answers themselves are carried out with this type of a liberal but also democratic approach. So in that sense, yes, the bias comes in the end, but you need to understand who are the developers. Even in the non-AI related bias cases, and if we go 200 years back, even how humans themselves operated, I don't know, in Indochina, for instance, then we had a bias. And it was a strong racial bias, it was a social bias, and it's inherently how we operate. But unfortunately, it carries over to technology as well, whether it's the Austrian or Netherlands example, whereby bias inherently programmed into the decision making. So I'm not in that optimistic perspective that we are operating in a non-biased world. And yes, mathematically, things can be more bias-free, but unfortunately, the underlying factors will contribute in.
So let's look at the title of our panel discussion. We have almost an hour left, but the question is algorithmic fairness possible? We can say, no, it's not possible because we humans are not fair, and we have never been fair, and it's maybe highly unlikely that we will ever be fair. Therefore, we will continue putting biased, unfair data into that fair machine, and therefore, we can just go have coffee and let people run free.
But I think it's an organizational aspect as well. We can do better. So if we design systems, if we think through even our thought process themselves or how we decide to make decisions, that we consider that there are minorities that we need to keep in mind. So I think it doesn't mean that, yes, there inherently is bias that we don't need to do anything. It's rather about being aware and taking concrete actions. That's a whole different approach.
Liina and Marju, we are not fighting a technological fight here. We are fighting something completely different.
I agree with that. We need to understand that there might be bias, or there is bias, and we need to deal with it. We need to accept it and then work with it, or to not work with it, but try to improve on it. And the fact that there will always be bias, or maybe hopefully in the future in science fiction there might not be bias, but it doesn't mean that we have to give up. Like, okay, let's give up, let's go home, that's it. No, we still, the tools give us an advantage, the tools help us in so many ways. We just have to be aware that not everything they say, or the system says, is okay. That is difficult because in some ways, if there is bias and the results will be biased and the kind of reach that the system has is so widespread that our tiny, individual biases cannot be spread so widely across the world, whereas this wide bias can. And not all people can be aware of it because, it is difficult to change one's opinion, and if the system tells you something that is in line with your opinion and the system is biased and you are biased in the same way, then you will be like, oh, okay, but the system told me, so it must be true. So it is a very difficult problem, but I don't think we should give up on the systems.
Okay, Marju, are we giving up?
Absolutely not.
But this is not a tech question, or is it?
It is both, but I would take kind of the same approach to both of these questions. Everyone in this room, everyone on the planet have lots of biases, unconscious biases, and we can strive to become more aware of them, and we can strive to improve throughout our lives, and hopefully we do. We strive in our school systems to teach our kids about how to behave in a way that's just and inclusive of all members in their classroom. We strive to do all of these things in our society. So we should take that exact same approach to models, AI systems, and understand that the better we want to be, the more work we do, the better algorithms for fairness we develop for different stages of model development and deployment, for tracking the model behavior, and even before for educating the engineers that first even put together the prototype about biases. The more we do, the better we become, and I do believe that humans want to become better, and therefore the models also will.
How much can we actually solve this with technology? Like, you are technology people, right? So should we like code something, like write a script, or what? How do we approach this?
So, who wants? Okay, I will jump in. So, if you think in terms of what we are in the end after, or how we can mitigate those risks, think in terms of human oversight, or right to dispute, or transparency of decision making, and so forth. In Estonian case, we've been taking a really practical or pragmatic approach. So if we talk about transparency, let's try to be transparent in terms of how we process data. We are right now in midst of making algorithmic transparency standard mandatory for the whole of government. So if a decision or algorithm is being used for automated decision making, then you should be able to understand what is the logic behind it. What type of information is used to process the decision, where can you, or how you can dispute the decision. So again, right to dispute. In the morning we saw as well, every individual has the right to dispute. So I think from that perspective, technology can support in ways that previously you were unable to see the thought process. For instance, you went to a government official, you heard back you're not going to receive this or that funding or opportunity, or you never even knew that there is an opportunity because information was not widely available. Now it's the other way around, but it's about designing from the core how you try to keep like everyone's equal rights kind of considered. But I think what is still a non-technical side is in some areas, I would say that we don't have a societal level agreement on what does a fair society look like. And everyone has different views on what is a fair society.
Different biases, maybe.
There are different biases. So if we don't have an universal kind of a ground, this is how we operate, then it's really difficult to enforce something that we don't have an agreement on. But I think technology can support, and this applies the same thing with the LLMs and so forth. In the end, how you deploy, you can control as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So difficult with you. You all agree.
Yes.
We need the fourth person.
Sorry
here.
about that. Yeah.
We need to get that fourth person.
So someone who is for bias. So in the keynote as well, you saw that there is no one system where that can say that yes, this system is biased, or no one kind of tool that helps you. There are measures that you can take to make it to help with your process, but it's not like one thing. And if you think about it, then like philosophically as well, so if we have this machine that can do anything, and then you make a machine that checks whether the previous machine did something, then will that machine be biased? That probably will be biased as well. And then you have another machine, and so on. So it actually kind of logically becomes that it's impossible to make another machine that checks it. So you do have to come back to a human in the loop, which of course again is is a bit dangerous because then you come down to that person's biases. Although again, then the kind of the reach becomes a bit smaller. So you have like single biases, and maybe you have several people doing that. So, but this big machine, it gets everywhere, and it has the bias everywhere. So, again, there are measures that you can take, but there is no one tool that can solve it, unfortunately, right now. So.
Can we just, can we train it into the machine, into the LLM somehow to be completely 200% fair?
But then I would ask then, the data comes from different places, and who is doing the training, and what is fair for them. Mm-hmm. So what is fair in the, let's say, in the society that trains the model, and also not only in the society but in the organization that trains the model, because we can get different models from different organizations in the same kind of legislative area, and those might be totally different and have different fairness ideas of fairness. So yes, it would be great if we could put the fairness. We could put the fairness in or train the fairness in at the base level in the foundation model, but unfortunately. We then come to the essential question of what is fairness, and I'm not sure we want to discuss that today.
No, I think this is the key question probably. Marju.
I would like to say that there are several tools available already. For example, IBM has a 360 fairness tool that's easy to use. There are tests in there for checking your data for biases. There are mitigation algorithms to train your model, to take into account the bias, to put the bias into the loss function so that the model is penalized for using protected categories as part of its inference logic. So there is a booming community of research on how to make AI fair and how to train models to be fair. And just like with everything else in AI right now, this community is growing exponentially. The ideas are coming out, and we are only getting better and better and better. So the technology is there. I would say that once the society and the legal bodies come up with the spec, you give the spec to the engineers can build it, up to an error of epsilon.
But you work for the government. Let's take a very simplified potential situation. Mm-hmm. So just a question, a topic that popped into my mind. We have occasionally had this discussion in Estonia whether we should install speed cameras measuring the average speed on Estonian roads. And this is a somewhat political question. So we can imagine a theoretical scenario where the Estonian police, for example, who's very for that, has an LLM, and they ask, should we do it? And the LLM is like, yeah, this is the best idea ever. And then we have maybe some citizen groups or maybe some party in the parliament who has their own LLM, and they ask, how should we approach this policy? And that LLM says, wow, our voters are completely against it. This is the worst idea ever. And where do we code this? Maybe they all run on, currently on some sort of ChatGPT API. Should we code or install this fairness on the application level, on, guardrails level? Or how would you approach this?
Yeah, so first of all, on this very topic, I wouldn't just make a decision based on the LLM.
But we can envision a future where this input from AI will be very important.
Yeah, so let's imagine a future, let's say 15 years from today. So government is thinking, and I'm going to extend your idea.
Please do, yes.
Not even average speed, but what if we are going to use all the cameras across Estonia, and we are calculating based on the distance and the car, how fast the car is moving, and we are finding people. So there is no typical speed camera approach whatsoever. Now, if the government wants to make that decision, and we want to know what is the kind of a poll, what does the average person say? Mm-hmm. How many support? Then imagine that within the state, or each of us have a digi-twin. So the digi-twin we can either, if the DigiTwin already knows what is our opinion because we have used it so much, he knows what are our feelings, what are our thoughts, we'll answer to that poll automatically. In other cases, when the DigiTwin is not 100% certain, will revert back to us. Hey, I know this is an important topic, just to make sure. Are you pro or against? The government gets an overview of the whole of population. What is the sentiment? And the second part is, if people are against, why they are against. Government, let's imagine a really data-driven, and we are able to track down those people that are against and see their driving behavior. For instance, those are the people that are actually speeding using GPS location. I'm talking in a kind of a dystopian view, not representing Estonian government whatsoever on this one. So imagine on that base level, we understand how people are behaving, how they are driving, how many of those that are against or pro are actually speeding, their previous history of getting speeding tickets, interaction with police and so forth, and we actually can make a decision. Then there is also, if we are going to track kind of the speed of the car, how it will affect. So I think in that sense, it can support really what we are after and make a more kind of a well-decided decision based on what actually people think. There is always someone against because it's not a bias in the classical sense. It's our opinion. It's a political view, how much the government should intervene. But we can, in the end, already today actually design. So you can kind of assign how much even hate can come through the kind of system answers. You can instruct how the system itself answers to you and so forth. So in the end, you're in control. You can instruct. You can give, I don't know, user and system and assistant prompts saying, these are fine, but this is now against. But again, then we come to the human part.
Yeah, but I mean, you took a few minutes to explain this.
Yeah.
I imagine in real life, this would have happened in like 2.5 seconds, where the machines go bing, 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 and a decision comes out.
There's just decision.
Yeah, okay, yeah, maybe. We don't even see that. But I mean, this kind of scenario might pop up in all sorts of political or policy discussions in the near future. Maybe it already does, right? And the machine, I'm asking things from the LLMs, opinions, instructions, advice. And I think it's very likely that people who are dealing with, upcoming policies and so on, they do it as well. And they get answers from these machines. They get advice. And currently we don't really know what it's based on, right? It's based on some data.
The internet.
Yeah, or the history of everything. I don't know. But is this true? Is this the current situation, that we get stuff from these machines and we have no idea where it's coming from?
Basically, yes.
Yeah?
Because, we don't know what they're trained on. So none of the models, they say that it's publicly available information on the internet. So usually publicly available information on the internet is a lot of forums. And I think Grok is trained on Twitter or X tweets. So that is also a source of information. I don't know. They used to say that Wikipedia is not a credible source of information. Well, I mean, Wikipedia is quite okay right now, it seems. Like at least someone has looked at this information. And I also worry about when a lot of content is now produced by AI, and a lot of it produces a lot of slop as well. It does well if you ask it to give you like an overview or a review or something like a short one-pager based on like a 300-page document. It should be okay with that. But if you're also writing things with it, then that also gets on the internet. And there is no sign saying that, oh, this is AI generated. And then you put it up on the internet, and then it becomes publicly available, and then the machine is trained on this information. And then what you get is like, even more, it rounds. So every machine learning system or an AI system, it rounds out the extremities. So it takes out all of the unique snowflakes and also, the vulnerable groups which are maybe less represented. Those also get, I would say that the rounding is even worse there because they have a lot of unique people or unique individuals in them. And then when you get output from this rounded information, then that gets to be input again, then it rounds it even more. So you in the end, you will be left with this kind of core blob.
Like core average.
Core average, yes. And even though it is good for some things, again, for giving overviews and doing things, it is, if people are more and more asking it for advice, and children are asking it for advice, then this system is basically kind of teaching or directing our youth and the people towards something. So it's also kind of rounding out their views, and maybe it will be less diverse bias, but it will still be bias in some sense.
Bias towards the center.
Yes.
Which is also a bias, probably.
I mean, we still want to be different, right? We don't want everyone to be like this homogeneous.
Yeah, like an entity.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Marju, you have a comment here, or?
Yeah, I do believe we should start designing already these models with equality in mind, with non-discrimination in mind, and that means from the design team, from the data collection, data filtering before you even give it to the model, then the model training. After the base model is trained, reinforcement learning on top to still put on safeguards so that it doesn't spew out slop. And then after that, if there is a final product, it should be testing it again. And once it's in the world, it needs to be continuously monitored. There should be ways for it to communicate how it's operating, when it's operating, and it should be clear to the user what the model is doing for it. It doesn't need to be technical, but there should be some kind of indication. And all of this needs to be transparent enough so that the user can take action based on this information.
What?
Yeah, so I'm going to tackle it from another perspective. So if we look at, for instance, in Estonia, 50% of adults are using AI daily. Just yesterday, we saw the research results for how much children are using AI. In some countries, all of the respondents were using, for instance, in Czechia. In Estonia, roughly 65% of children are using. And at the same time, what has happened during that kind of last 6-7 years when we first did the nationwide survey on people's approach towards AI, people are very strongly supporting the use of AI within the government. People are extremely positive in the sense that AI is transforming, supporting their life, their work. But now comes the problem, if we think in terms of the LLMs, how many of us think differently between the different models that we are using, the different kind of customer-facing solutions? So inherently, let's take DeepSeek or Qwen, it has inherent bias. But how many of us, because we are so much relying, we are so overly positive on the outcome so far, do we differentiate between what is in the end provided to us? If, for instance, let's say a country X develops their nationwide fine-tuned model, which is extremely strongly, it's kind of an authoritarian country. Estonia is the best. Does any other country compete with us on the digital state?
No.
Hell no. Estonia is literally the best.
Yeah.
The only digital state in the world. Okay.
I think this might be biased, but I don't know.
No, come on. Yeah. But that's one of the risks that I see. We are so much relying today that we don't differentiate, that we can talk about on a frontier level that this needs to be done. But if you now go to the end kind of application level, I'm not sure people really understand the risks.
And also people might like biases, as they like.
Exactly. Take social media.
Estonia is the best overall, right? Like, and this is not biased. Okay, mathematics people, can this fairness be calculated? Can we tell to the machine that from now on, every output, every answer you give us, you have to calculate that it's fair? Yes? Yeah?
We're striving towards that, right? We have test sets, we have tools, we have algorithms, we're building more. We can use independently built models to evaluate the large language models. We can look at anomaly detection, statistical incoherencies that are not based on the same framework, are not trained on LLMs. So we have tools. None of them are perfect, but we have tools and we're getting better.
You agree?
Yeah, I mean, we can statistically make a score and
fairness score.
A fairness score, yes, a fairness score. There are fairness scores. Researchers have figured out fairness scores, but again, they are not overarching. It is not something you can just say, take an LLM and say, okay, this fairness score. Or if you have some, let's say, more focused system, focused on one task, maybe just a machine learning model or a neural network. That doesn't need to be necessarily a large language model. You can compute that score, but it's very restricted. It's for this specific task. And this score by far does not encompass everything. So again, it comes down to I've been asking this, like, what is fairness? One score cannot do everything, but I agree that there are different methods. You can compute different scores, and you can get. And if you don't do this, then your system will be very biased. If you do this, you might catch some of the biases. We can never say that a system is unbiased. That's because we don't know. There is no such tool that will say that yes, this is now the universally fair system. But what we can do is test as much as possible. It's like penetration testing. Like if you have an information system, you want it to be as secure as possible, but you will never know because you might still find the vulnerability that you haven't tested for. So you do the maximum and catch as many problems as possible, and then the rest people will have to deal with. And you have to accept that you cannot catch everything. It has to be a risk-based approach. How much are you going to focus on the system to catch the last mistakes, or how much benefit you're going to get from it? And the problem is that, as I said, we will not know if the system is fair. We just know if it's not fair.
I would like to build on that, that once the system is, it's passed, let's say, all of these tests, the task is not complete. We continue, we monitor its use, we collect telemetry, we look for abnormal behavior, we address all of these issues, and the model keeps growing just as we do. So the process doesn't end there.
Yeah.
But this would be different in different cultures, in different, religions maybe, or different societies. What is fair? What do we want the model to say? How do we expect the model to portray the world and, encompass this concept of fairness? This will be different in different countries, or don't you think so? Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah.
So we are just talking about the Western or the European, or how have you thought about these boundaries? Like or the Christian LLM? I don't know how to call this.
I think we have this common value space in Europe that we're trying to kind of frame ourselves and our technology in. So taking that as kind of the baseline or framework, the legal and societal norms could be a starting point.
But we could have this Estonian AI that's always pro-Estonia, like Estonia is the best.
Yeah, I think the major concern is still that the widely used LLMs, they are in the end developed outside of EU as well. So just thinking in terms of representatives. It's more of a Western in terms of EU, US, Canada, and so forth. So there is definitely going to be some areas whereby maybe our kind of a society-wide approach would or could or would be different. But at the same time, I think the approach that we have taken so far, that at least information about Estonia is represented in the major models, this is something that we need to continue to do. Otherwise, even in simple areas, we are not able to get the answer that is actually representing the situation here in Estonia.
It's actually so interesting to listen and think about. Like, this is beginning to remind me of actually different religions. So maybe I will use a Buddhist LLM, and yeah, maybe it aligns with my values and my understanding of the world. And when I ask for advice or things, maybe I like the Buddhist AI's world view more than any other AI. It could be like, and what's fair is probably different. Like, should you kill flies or not? Yeah.
I think we're at the doorstep of entering this agentic world where we each have agents acting on our behalf. We can give each of these agents their own personality, their own religion, and this is exactly the future that we will see very soon. So the future of agents will somehow meld with our human society.
If we are we still imagining the future that LLMs could become like abundant, like I could have 20 different ones running on my fridge or something, that they will become so easy, and therefore there will be lots of different ones, and therefore there could be lots of open sourced ones, which would really mess up this picture probably, this question of fairness.
So you might even in the end have 3 agents. One is Buddhist, one has a Christian mindset, and
neoconservative for
whatever.
the third, yes.
Yeah, and they can support you throughout the life.
Yes.
So, hey, this is my view. Don't kill the fly. Kill all the flies. Burn them. So, I think this is actually where we are going. So, if you think in terms of the kind of agentic or AI-based companies, you are building software that would otherwise take 6-7 months now in collaboration with 4 or 5 different agents doing the same thing. And I think from a personal perspective as well, in the end, if we think in terms of the DigiTwin, you control what type of agents you want to deploy, whether in healthcare. So you're into sports, you might have a personal trainer supporting you running a marathon under, 3 hours and 30 minutes. So you can in the end have different assistants who will do the work, and I think many of us we will transform in our work life as well to a more mid-manager level, so we have different assistants doing work and we need to manage them in the end.
So going to the audience questions, it's a very good transition here. Can we imagine that this sort of self-regulation that we are talking about right now, is this enough? Like, can we imagine a self-regulated fair future? Can we imagine an almost unregulated future where some of it is fair, some of it is not? Or should we somehow mandate it by law and say everything should be equal, scores will be calculated, and no other output is allowed?
I would go for the middle road. I do not like the wild, wild west. I know that people keep saying that regulation kills innovation, but it really does not. As a researcher, when GDPR came, we did not stop. It did not stop us from analyzing data. It stopped us from analyzing data illegally. It basically gave us some kind of framework to say that this is okay and this is not okay. I have seen how things change for the better, and it's still a hard fight because I'm a privacy researcher first and foremost. So for me, this like move from, I have these ID codes on my computer, and now I'm doing all sorts of whatever analysis on them, to targeted analysis on data. I don't think that necessary data analysis has been left out, but just it's been done in a more systematized way. And that's why I believe also in regulation. Not over-regulating, of course, but still not like, just you go and do whatever you want. But in a sense of like, there needs to be some kind of framework to govern what kind of systems get into the market, what kind of systems need to go through what kind of certification or what kind of risk management, either than, audited risk management or external audited risk management in AI systems. So I would say still some kind of regulation needs to be there.
What can you imagine this?
So first of all, I think regulation just normatize a certain period or mindset that we are looking at. So for instance, let's take the GDPR example. So saying before GDPR, things were done in a legal manner is not per se correct. It's rather there was more of a free approach. Now, if we think even in the how data is being processed, now from a government perspective, you need to have a legal ground or a specific purpose. But now take in the Estonian approach of consent-based data sharing. This is from a GDPR and in general perspective, this is not the legal basis a government should use. Why take consent? But I would say that we have evolved during this time that this is now a new kind of a normality that we can take consent because we do believe that the person should be in charge of how their data is being processed and what type of services are provided. So as the society evolves, regulations need to adapt as well. Now, in terms of finding the balance, I think even the AI Act approach right now, we talk about transparency, human control, data quality, and so forth. They make sense. If we go to more of kind of a philosophical or opinion related, like agree between all of us on every topic, what is fair, that would be an awesome panel, to be honest. I'm more than sure we will find topics we disagree for some reason. But writing those in regulation, then we are creating unbiased words from the beginning.
No, it's just very, in very practical terms, I started imagining that, maybe this future where 20 different LLMs are running on my phone, some are downloaded from some forums, some are, from Google or from Microsoft, some official sources, some are, more pro-Estonian, some are maybe, biased in whatever ways. I mean, if we start policing this, then it kind of starts looking like the fight against child abuse, which is, very harsh, and there's a very concrete agreement over society that, this is something that must not be tolerated in any way. But I just cannot imagine police, barging into my room just because some LLM, told me that women might be less intelligent. I mean, yeah, I don't think the society will agree to this. How can we regulate this thing?
But I mean, you are kind of, you're saying that there will be a lot of different LLMs.
Yes.
But like, how many different operating systems, for instance, are there? Or how many different word processors are we using? There aren't that many. There aren't like, open source word processing tools. We're mostly using one. And for operating systems, we're mostly using 3. So I'm maybe more skeptical about all of the LLMs that will be lying around. Maybe, hopefully, there will be some more kind of competition there. But I think because like if we ask today in this room, let's ask who hands up who is not using ChatGPT as their main LLM?
Yeah. You're using Copilot, which is essentially ChatGPT anyway.
Yeah, Copilot is using, okay, not OpenAI models then, let's say.
Okay, but I mean, but are you? Whoa! This is getting. We have to stop now. But this is really interesting. Are you imagining a future where I open up Microsoft Word and I type a sentence in, and the Word says, "Nope, can't do. This is the wrong sentence." I mean, technologically, yes, we can do this, but actually, sounds very strange to me.
No, I hope not.
Yeah?
I don't imagine that kind of...
You yourself asked how many word processors are there. Well, there are a few. What can we do with them?
No, but why I asked that is that you're saying that there will be, so many of them to choose from.
Okay,
And I'm afraid
the models.
that there will not be that many of them to choose from.
I mean, yes, if we think that LLMs will be kind of like applications or operating systems, they might be more like websites where there are, a couple of billion of them, and we cannot control what is written on like each and every one of them.
There might be just a few of the gigantic base models, but everybody can create their own personality. You just have this
with the weights,
little file, like a settings file. You say, I want my LLM to have this personality, this belief, and so on. And this brings me to this futuristic, but not so distant futuristic topic of agents and how we should treat them legally. And I wonder if it's time to start thinking about agents being responsible to law just like humans are. If they're starting to take action on our behalf, we should start having discussions about where is the boundary between responsibility between the person who gave the personality and task to the agent, and where is the responsibility for the base model and the trainer of the model.
Question from the audience: could you create a sandbox for fairness tests and then use the data coming from that to feed back into the loop, and to test responses and just keep the fair ones?
But I think it's really similar to how even like the Estonian language quality in different LLMs are tested and compared to each other. So of course you can test out in certain aspects, but the problem is, can you do such a test and framework extensive and cover all the possible topics? I think that's difficult. And then you really come into the agent's perspective. Just think in terms of CMS. Let's take WordPress. You can use the same platform to have multiple different websites. One hugely against dogs, the other one pro cats all the way. And it's the same thing with the fine-tuned models. In the end, you as a, owner, you decide.
Okay, we are approaching time. If anyone has questions in the audience, lots of questions. Okay, the hand in the back was, I think, the first one that I saw going up.
Hello, my name is Jakob Rosin. I'm an inclusive designer. And I have a question regarding fairness. And I think I'm trying not to be too long with this, but how can we make sure that everybody is treated fairly? So let's say we have a hiring AI, which is responsible to hire, let's say, software engineers to a company. And it does its own tests and screening. And let's say somebody who is blind wins the race and will be hired. However, to hire this person, the company needs to provide reasonable accommodations. Buy some assistive technologies like a braille display and a screen reader, etc. And this will cost the company some kind of money, let's say, 5,000 euros or 10,000 euros. Now, from the point of view of company, it's not fair because the company has to pay more. From the point of view of the one being hired, it is very fair because they can apply to all kinds of jobs and get hired based on their skills. So how do we calculate the fairness in this situation? Thank you.
Well, of course, towards the person. Again, if the person is good, then this 10,000 is a one-time investment, and if the person is going to you know, they will be an asset to the company. I'm assuming that it's not, you know. I think in this case it is towards the person.
But yeah, from a company perspective as well. So think in terms of there were 100 applicants. Someone came out first. Now, if you make that, for instance, 10K investment, then how many other companies are willing to do the same investment? So oftentimes we, at least from a government perspective, it's more about the turnover. So people find new jobs, the same thing in private sector. So as you said, it's an asset, but it's from an individual perspective. But also, if a company really thinks in terms of a long-term opportunity and benefit, then they will make it as well. So it's Indian capitalism, so it will sort things out.
And the next time you have the same opportunity, then it will be easier. It won't be also next time. I think the investment will not be as high because you already know how it works. And you already have the kind of, let's say, pipeline in place for also, you know, hiring inclusively.
All right, I think we had a question here and another one. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm Karin Schreder, Director of European Institute for Gender Equality. At one point you spoke about testing the fairness of the systems, the lady from Microsoft, and also we need to keep monitoring if we can avoid the biases. I would be interested to hear from you what elements or what evidence do you use, because you can only test it if you know what you're testing, and there are so many inequalities in society. My institute works on gender equality, but there's other inequalities in society. So what feeds into your knowledge to be able to test the biases? And also, are you working together with equality bodies, experts on human rights and gender equality, for example, so that you're actually able, indeed, to combat the biases in the systems? Thank you.
So I will speak in the panel right after coffee, where I can give more concrete examples. So I invite you to that. But broadly speaking, yes, we are using the tools that we have built, and we are actively tracking the community on that's researching equality and fairness in models. Microsoft internally has an Office of Responsible AI, which is staffed by professionals whose task is exactly that, also help us keep track of emerging tools, emerging issues, possible mitigations. And with any model anywhere in Microsoft, we first pass through a review with this Office of Responsible AI, whose job it is exactly this, to be an external organ that guides us and gives us feedback about what needs to be tested more, suggests further data collection, suggests further questions to ask, ask us for descriptions of possible harms and benefits produced by the system, and then analysis of any mitigation done to that. So on the team level, on individual level, we are all striving to keep track of research, but we also have structures in place to help us guide us on this path.
Okay, thank you. And a question here, and then I think it's time, unfortunately.
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting discussion. I'm Jukka Mäkkinen from Estonia Business School. So my question is a little bit like focusing on economic aspects of developing technology. So I'm a little bit like wondering why you focus so much on technology, not on the political doctrine that it's trying to promote. But my understanding is that this particular technology is developed by profit-motivated companies like Microsoft and other big tech type of firms. And there is a particular type of understanding of fairness in this setting, but it might be contrary to how we understand fairness. It's called Friedman doctrine. that you have a combination of profit-motivated companies operating in particular type of political setting. And this combination creates situation where technology is pretty much focusing on cost cutting. We are getting more automation, we are getting more surveillance, we are getting more inequalities. And USA economy is an example of this type of tendency. So there is particular type of idea of fairness here, but it might be quite problematic. So I'm a little bit like, how do you see this type of argument that we are too much focusing on this technology and not so much on the underlying sort of conception of fairness that is giving it a particular type of trajectory that might challenge human labor and our capabilities to reason?
Well, I think we all agree that that fairness is not, I think I've asked like 3 times what is fairness. So fairness is not a universally acknowledged framework of this is fairness. If it were, it would be so much easier to test also the systems for that. And I think as the first question also pointed out, it's that sometimes what is fair to one person doesn't necessarily mean it's fair to the organization or something else. And then the system itself cannot make that decision. And it does come down to what what the fairness framework is in the organization or in the country that is using the system. Whether these people who are using it, whether it also seems fair to them or not. And it is very difficult because we don't have one unified set of ethics. As I said, we're all biased in our own way, and if we design systems, this bias is going to go into the system as well, not maybe consciously, but it will be there unconsciously.
And just to kind of end up from my side as well, I think what has been brought out during the panel is we need in some areas kind of a societal-wide agreement on what is acceptable, where do we discriminate, even in terms of the digital state. So today we are able to provide services to digitally literate people that unfortunately for non-digital literate people we are unable to provide. But this now brings up the question about how the government should actually extend those services. And in some areas, we are unable to have those services provided to people who are non-digital literate. So that has to be a societal-wide agreement. This is how we are going forward. Yes, we are discriminating some people, but unfortunately, you have a role as well. So if in some areas, it's in your power to have, I don't know, access to some specific services, the government should provide those guardrails and support for you to get to that level so you would be on unequal grounds. And whether it is assistive devices and so forth, I think that's the kind of the role of the government. Okay, thank you. Our time is up. Thanks to the panelists and also the wonderful audience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.